We're going to build the best football team in the SEC conference. We're going to build the best football program in the SEC conference.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
The kick, it's been blocked again! How about it? It's been blocked again! It's going to heat one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be gone! It's a touchdown! And the Gators have won the game! Tyree Cleveland! How about it? I can't believe what I just saw! Dropping back to throw. Thompson fires the ball over the middle. It's Dory! It's Dory! Got a touchdown! Dory's got a touchdown! Oh, man! Dory's got a touchdown! Ahmad Black, in his final game as a Gator, takes it all the way home and sends Urban out the winner.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Stadium in Gale. It's your boy Corey.
It's Dan.
And Delatorre.
Same corner, same time, Monday morning, bright out of bushy tail. How y'all boys feeling? Y'all good?
Yeah, had a good weekend. Had a wedding to go to Saturday night. That was a lot of fun. Just an enjoyable, kind of relaxing weekend. Heading to the Dominican Republic on Thursday. Getting ready for that.
Setting.
Say what?
Jet setting. Shout out
That's
to our boy, because everybody ain't able to live the life that Dan lives. You know, somebody's got
Traveling,
to
man.
get these
Somebody's got
Tuesday
to.
rounds of golf at exclusive country clubs in.
Yep.
It's a tough life.
The life of a traveling man.
Taking my team boating tomorrow to acknowledge their hard work. So appreciate them. Yeah, just somebody's got to do it, Nick.
Are you driving the boat?
No, we got a captain for tomorrow.
Okay. I'm about to say, did they run this by HR? Did they?
Yeah,
Big
no.
Harrison vibes here.
Yeah, no, that's my opportunity to be an arm's length distance away, just in case something happens. You know what I mean?
He's Harrison's cousin. Him and Dan are related.
Yeah.
Same trust fund, man.
Harrison and I have been, this has all been a ruse. Harrison and I are cousins. Yeah.
Was in cahoots.
The whole time.
Harrison.
How was your weekend, Nick?
The weekend was good. My so the new setup here, my parents, like I said, were very happy about grandchild number one. They bought a house in Gainesville, so spent the weekend with mom. They had some furniture coming up, so me, mom, and the wife, who is exactly get this baby out of me weeks pregnant. We are creeping along towards September when baby girl will be here. So always good to see the family. And yeah, it's becoming more real by the day, I think. It'll become real when that first diaper hits, I think. I think that's my duty. Is that dad duty?
Oh, for sure.
Week one is diaper or month one.
It's always dad's duty, bro. This is a new era. This is not our dad's era. So
No.
consistent diaper.
Our
They got
dad's era was
changes
like,
in-
hey, if you're around, that's great. Just
Right,
be
right.
be at the house.
Yeah. Just stop by every once in a while.
Show up at some sporting events, maybe.
Yeah. In your dress suit and tie, and then just stand in the back.
Yeah.
Arms
With your arms
crossed.
folded. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the vibe.
make sure he sees you, but don't get too involved, you know.
Maybe don't yell if your wife, who's been home with the baby all day, doesn't have dinner ready right when you're home. But that used to be dad's duty. Now it's
Now we got diaper changes in the men's bathroom. All right.
Yeah.
So, different
Come a long
vibes.
way.
Do you plan on tying her hand behind her back to make her a left hand softball pitcher?
Oh,
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's
Where did that think it was going?
I have no idea.
That I don't know if it's much of a difference whether you're lefty or righty in softball.
Okay.
But listen, if the boy comes, don't tell DCF, but he will be encouraged to throw left-handed.
Okay.
His
like
baby's going to be in a sling for like the first 7 years of his life.
Yeah.
Just like messing up the swaddle, only swaddling one arm down.
That's right.
Yeah. Everything with intentions and purpose, man. I didn't do a whole lot this weekend. Just fishing, man. That's been the story of my summer. Hanging out with the family. Went along the intercoastal, hooked something that was egregious when I pulled it up. Had a lot of teeth.
Look
I
like
had to
Barracuda.
It was a barracuda.
Yep.
The Twitter was on your case. I think you was like called it a manatee or something crazy.
Yeah, I
just
called it a marlin or a manatee, obviously joking. I don't know if everybody knew that. Obviously, it looks neither like a marlin and obviously not a manatee. But
right. It had a lot of teeth, so I sent it back to the ocean with the hook. That's his hook now.
That's like, this is a gift.
Yeah. Take that back to your friends. Let them know how I get down. But no, I had a solid weekend for the most part. No complaints.
That's good. Yeah, when Harlem and Corey are around the Intercoastal, that Barracuda will let them know, hey, you see one of these guys, don't get like me. You know?
If you see a hook like this one, stay away from it because them boys is getting it in.
Did I ever tell you guys a story about how I went fishing with my aunt and uncle and parents? I was probably 12 or 13 years old. And we caught a shark off the coast off the Gulf Coast. It was a black tip shark. Well, my dad had broken my dad's line. And no joke, like 3 minutes later, I catch something on my line, I reel it in. That stupid shark still had the hook in his mouth. I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you feel bad. You're like, all right, you can go back in the water, have a great life. But this one, is on a suicide mission,
Yeah.
Or he was just hungry.
What type of shark was it? Was this like a great white shark or like a nerf shark?
It's a black tip shark. It's
okay.
I
thought you had jaws or something.
No, like no jaws.
Roughly the same size as the cannon you fired a couple of years ago.
You know what, Nick? I mean, you're not far off in terms of like cannon barrel and the size of the shark. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
baby cannon, baby shark.
Yeah. It's a desk cannon.
Put the shark in the cannon. No, I can't get canceled. All right, guys, we got a big show. We are going to talk a little bit about the Gators game against Texas A&M, game 3 of the season. Then we will potentially cover Mississippi State this weekend, this week. If not, it'll be next week. Before we do that, a lot of news in the Gators sports world that we will go over. But first things first, it's been 11 long years. EA College Football 25 comes out today, 6 hours from now. Boys, you going to play?
Yeah, immediately.
I have no choice. Not 4 hours. We're waiting a few days for I didn't do the early release thing.
Yeah.
But my son plays video games, so outside of getting housed by him, 21 zip first half, I won't be playing it in my spare time or anything. So I'm not like on the edge of my seat waiting for it to come out. Things change when you get my age, man.
I'll immediately be making content out of this, Dan, and then writing the game off as a work expense.
Good. What's the first thing you're going to do to make content, Nick? Because there's somebody that already did a 10-year rebuild where he immediately in week 1 put DJ Lagway in, led the team all the way to the college football final. I believe they lost to Oregon, if I remember that exact story correct. And then in year 10, he finally won his second national championship. I think he won one in year 3 with DJ Lagway. Do you plan on doing something similar?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just listen. I'm not changing anything. Maybe go through the roster depth chart and make it more realistic, depending on what they have it looking like. But it's just a straight sim. This is what happens to the Florida Gators in EA College Football.
How long did it take him to do that?
To do what?
Well, the video that he made was like an hour and 15 minutes long, but I think you can sim the game. I mean, it wasn't live streamed, right? It's all cut up, edited, all that other stuff. So I think he's kind of giving you just like a preview of what recruiting looked like, what gameplay looked like, everything else.
Okay.
But I would imagine. I don't know like what these. I don't watch a ton of content around video games, but I would imagine it's a pretty heavy lift to do all that.
Yeah, so it's a lot of these guys with either big Twitch live stream followers or big YouTube channels got early access to the game to kind of play it. I've been watching a ton of that content. So that's a big thing. There was a college football revamped game that's kind of like filled the place of not having EA College Football. So a lot of those guys, and that's been a big thing, is like, hey, we're doing a rebuild of Air Force or a rebuild of so-and-so. So that gets into recruiting and all that stuff. I think the first thing I'll have up, I'll try to get it up today because I leave for Dallas tomorrow. Is just a 1-season sim. Like, hey, this is what happens if you sim Florida's, and you can probably get different records based on how many times you sim it, but just give it one shot. This is what Florida's record was according to EA Sports college football, but it goes deep into they have their road to glory mode, and you're getting like text messages. Hey, do you want to go to this party instead of studying for your test? The answer for me every single time is yes. I do want to go to that party.
Yeah, they're very realistic. Yeah,
build my local brand while pulling my 2.1 GPA just to stay eligible.
Get the Salty Dog as a NIL sponsor.
I mean, that would be fantastic. Maybe talk to our boy Zika at Cantina Añejo.
Oh yeah,
get that deal. McDitton's McDitton's is open for business on in Midtown.
The Tampa Bay legend McDitton's is open. I can just see Nick's road to glory getting derailed by a late night at the White Buffalo.
White Buff.
He gets pulled over, maybe gets arrested, ends up at Georgia, or he ends up.
We'll see how realistic it is. If I can get a text message that Tay-Bang wants to meet me at Flabbit Field, do you want to bring your frying pan? We'll know how much they've done, how much research they've done around the University of Florida.
Yeah, or getting arrested for stealing street tacos. We got getting arrested for throwing a Jimmy John sub at an employee. You know,
EA Sports, if it's in the game, it's in the game.
Yeah, I love it.
Did y'all see that Tim Tebow beat the brakes off Mike Vick in the game?
Yeah, is Mike Vick a millennial? But like Mike Vick might be an elder millennial to the point where he didn't grow up playing games. I think Tim Tebow.
No, he's from that era though. I just don't think Vick's active on the sticks, and Tim Tebow
clearly
still got that child like energy about himself, man. I think Vick is doing the dope things at night instead of on the game. But Tim Tebow took him up through that, man. Easy win.
Caleb makes a funny comment. He says, Road to Glory lets you have a burner fund to respond to haters and hype your player. That would be great if you could create some like burner social media accounts.
But yeah, you can.
Coach under the bus.
In the game, you can create like it gives you an option, but there is the caveat that you could get caught, like KD, with your burner account in the game. Yeah, so I've watched.
You could have a coaches meeting telling their staff to unfollow writers and on Twitter and stuff.
Allegedly,
just really in the game.
They're not letting it go.
All right, let's go over it a little bit. There's some cool features. Gators Uni posted this. There's going to be 175 different uniform combinations. There are 7 helmets, 5 jerseys, and 5 pairs of pants. Guys, let's create the
there is going to be
what's the best jersey, and then what's the most egregious combination that you can have. If you're listening online, or if you're listening in your car, just to give you a background, there's the traditional orange Gators helmet with the script, the blue Gators helmet with the script, white Gators helmet with the script, and the black Gators helmet with the script. Then there's the old school interlocking UF logo that on an orange helmet, the blue helmet with the circle F, and then the white helmet with the circle F. Give me the best uniform combo and the most egregious uniform combo.
I mean, egregious. You could put some funky combinations here to make it egregious, but all white is always my favorite one.
Okay.
I'll go with instead of the Gators cursive script on the helmet, I'll go with the old school white. The old school F on the helmet, on the white helmet, white top, white bottom. That's me right there. All orange to me looks like Clemson. Don't like that vibe.
Yeah.
I think if you're going Stormtroopers, the all white, I think the Gators script looks better. I wish they had the white jersey though, the white throwback. For me, I'm gonna go orange, white, orange with the orange UF interlocking, white jersey, orange pants.
Okay. That's the one you're going to play with most often.
That's my go-to.
You are not putting that shit on right there. I tell you that.
Orange, white, orange. That's solid. My cursed one, or are we waiting on that?
Yeah, the most egregious one. Yeah, what's your most egregious one?
Okay. Oof. Let's go with the blue. Blue helmet with the white F throwback F, a black jersey, and orange pants.
Yeah. I said something similar before we started the show. I mean, I think that's going to be egregious, right? Throwing that black uniform on any other color pair of pants. I think throwing that that blue helmet on, maybe like the blue one with the Gators script that like maybe is a slightly different color than the throwback blue. And then like a black pair of pants could certainly be a choice as well.
Black, orange, blue.
Yeah.
Is
you know, if you're planning on Halloween, do the old school orange interlocking, UF logo that's very retro with the new super modern black uniforms could be egregious. There's a lot of different combinations. So what I'm most looking forward to is not you scoring a touchdown with DJ Lagway, but it's seeing what egregious combination you could not only put UF in, but other schools as well. Do you guys think they're missing the green uniforms? I think that could have been great. No, just for this example, right?
No, don't ever. We trying to forget about that. Be honest with you.
The lost files is what that needs to be.
For sure. That and the split uniforms.
No. The ones from 06 or 05?
Let's listen. Yeah. I've talked to Tate Casey, and if you're listening to this show, if you have an 84 jersey with one orange sleeve and the rest is blue, Tate Casey's looking to get his uniform back.
It's gross, man.
Would like it back.
He's looking to start his next bonfire, and he's just been
so nasty.
Those were crazy because it was only like a select number of schools, right? Like Nike did it for like 5, eight schools, something like that. And they all looked the exact same. It was like super early 2000s vibes. Like, let's just throw a one random sleeve on. I remember they had a whole line because it was big, like when we were playing baseball. They created a whole line of like that Under Armour, like Nike Dry Fit stuff that was like 2 long different sleeves, which our coaches, when we were 10, 12 years old, did not understand why we wanted 2 different colored sleeves.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I haven't owned a PlayStation or Xbox in maybe 8 or 9 years. But I've thought about it, this game, Grand Theft Auto coming out, and I'm like, not the age I used to be, but
if you're thinking about it, don't go get it, bro. Video games are so expensive. The consoles are so expensive now. Like, if you're not passionate about it, that thing's gonna collect dust.
There's much worse things you could be doing with your time.
Like what as an adult?
I'll find a few things. Let's see.
I have so many things to do and catch up on, bro. Like, last thing is it'd be video games for me, bro. When my son say let's play the video game, I'm like, oh shit, man, I forgot I got to do that too.
Listen, I gotta get my gaming in before the baby comes, so there will be hours lost to this video game.
That's actually how I stopped playing video games when my daughter was born. Old lady was walking through the house with a crying baby. I'm sitting there getting it off with my digital friends. she has this look in my peripheral. I'm just like, yeah, it's probably time I like hang the sticks up, bro.
Getting it off with my digital friends is just a wild
pause, man. Pause.
A wild sequence of words there. I know not everybody is.
How you get your name put on a list on a Monday morning.
Tell you what. All right, let's go over a few of just the highlights, and then we'll move on to real football here. Montrell Johnson, Montrell Johnson's an 87 overall. Jason Marshall's an 89 overall. Jake Slaughter's an 87. Eugene Wilson, 86. Elijah Badger, an 85. The fastest player on the team is Tank Hawkins at 97 speed. Aiden Mizell's 96 speed. TJ Abrams, 95. Eugene Wilson at 93. Graham Mertz is an 84. No tight end in the room is listed at an 80 overall or higher. The highest is Hayden Hansen and Arliss Boardingham at 78. Cam Jackson's an 80, just kind of seeing if there's anybody else. I didn't do a lot of favors to the linebacker room. Gave Shamar James an 84, TJ Searcy a 78. Jamarcus Weston is in there. I believe Jamarcus Weston was on the last version of the game too. And then Jason Marshall's an 89, Asa Turner's an 84. Overall team score, not all that great, but this is your opportunity to lead the Gators back to glory. Yes,
Caleb McCray and Caleb.
DJ Lagway are both an 80.
They
feel like they tried Mertz with 84.
It'll be interesting. What percent of people? What percent of Gator fans? Because after watching, I forget the streamer's name. I think it's his
C4.
His YouTube is C4. Yeah, C4 something. Immediately changed to DJ Lagway, and then obviously DJ Lagway with his speed. That's kind of been the cheat code with sports games in general. But when you're playing a college game and you go back to like 2014, Michigan was really good because Denard Robinson had like a 96 speed. You just ran around with the quarterback. DJ Lagway obviously gives you that option. But in terms of the excitement, and if you're starting a dynasty, the chance to run around with a DJ Lagway, would you say that over under 95.1% of Gator fans who get their hands on this game immediately make a quarterback switch prior to Miami?
I just got to work him into a few packages. You know what I mean? We got to get him the experience, make sure he's taking care of the work in the classroom.
All right, Wild Bill.
He's got to earn his stripes, Nick. Not on my football team. You know, everything's earned, not given.
Dan also is not buying the game, so
right.
Dan's running 2-a-days. His players are getting like salt tablets when they say they're thirsty.
That's right.
Dan's doing up downs at halftime.
Yeah, John Hevesy will be on the staff.
Hey, we could talk about that a little later, man. Yeah.
Hey, blue collar America's great. I'll never criticize another man for having a job, no matter what it is.
Oh no,
I get the jokes. I get the jokes.
Never criticize. Like the people that think he's broke or something just don't get it. Like they really don't get life at all. Because I think he still has a ton of bread. But also like insurance. Like he's an older man, bro, and health insurance is very expensive. So finding a corporate entity to take care of that while you get off the couch because your wife is annoying is a thing too. So
I was just gonna say, I mean, being retired at that age, I couldn't imagine being retired at that age. I mean, obviously he has made a lot of money. We're talking about John Hevesy. There was a lot of trolls going around that he now works at Lowe's, not just like as a store employee. There's a higher level role that he had, but I think he's probably in his late 40s, early 50s. Can you imagine just sitting around for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Doing nothing.
Which is, I think it's more surprising than how fast the game passed him. You know, like it happened kind of quick. And the game I think it's a different time than when he first started. It's just a lot of smoke about his communication skills towards some of the players that were on the team while he was here. So I think it's more so the game passing him, not that he can't coach or can't find certain jobs. He might just be looking for some stability as well. But I don't think he's broke or poor or just can't get a college football job.
I mean, it does seem like a lowest point of his career.
All right. SEC Media Days.
Yo, chill, man. Chill.
That's nuts. All right. So SEC Media Day starts today. Greg Sankey is speaking right now. The Gators will make an appearance at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. They are bringing Shamar James, Montreal Johnson, and Graham Mertz along with Billy Napier to Dallas. Nick, what can we expect? Is there anything?
I like those three.
Yeah, I think so. Billy likes to bring seniors. He views this as a kind of a reward. So it makes sense. Like last year, didn't bring Graham Mertz. Obviously, Graham was first year. Makes sense to bring Graham senior. Makes sense to bring Montreal senior.
And Graham Mertz didn't even have to put out some sort of like statement on Instagram about why he wasn't going.
Like, listen, I appreciate
blessings.
I appreciate DJ Ukulele being like, listen, I don't deserve to be there. I'm the new guy.
Yeah.
Not to college football because I've been here a long time, but the new guy to this team, my third.
And plus, he had to, if he goes to that, then who's going to shoot the Polar Pop commercials?
I mean,
I just enjoy. He's like, I just wanted to make sure the attention wasn't on me, but I wanted to let you know. Let's get some attention my way. I was asked. I just said,
yeah, because I wanted to do Polar Pop commercials.
They're cheap, 70 cents
on an iPhone. All right, so Nick, yeah,
I didn't know they rebranded the Big Gulp.
Yeah.
So shout out to DJ for educating me on that.
Well, no, the Big Gulp is 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
And Polar Pop is Circle K.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the NIL, they did their job, and we're sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
At least it's an actual brand deal. You know what I mean? It's not just a collective deal.
A Circle K deal for a quarterback is also kind of wow. You know, doing the corner store commercial on iPhone Pro 15.
It's a great camera.
It is.
It's a great camera.
It is.
You could have at least shot it in cinematic mode, you know?
Right.
All right, Nick.
Right.
I know Austin Barber wanted to do it. I think that's, a redshirt junior, but an older guy, but I don't think you can bring 3 offensive guys. So I think Shamar's a good option. I know Derek Wingo wanted to do it. He's a guy who's been around for a long time, but I think Shamar's a starter. Don't know that Derek will be. Also, it's 3 Billy Napier guys. These are 3 guys signed by this coaching staff. There's only a couple guys left on the roster, like I think less than 10 that were signed by the last staff. So it's certainly a roster that is Billy Napier's, and it's 3 guys who I think represent his program well. So not going to get like I always like to do this, and don't want to forget this, but best dressed. I think we picked Pretty Ricky to be best dressed last year.
Yeah.
Nailed that. He looked like John Wick showing up in all black. I'm going to go with Shamar. I think Shamar's changed his profile picture because it used to be him and Christian Robinson. He was wearing like a Florida puffer jacket, no shirt, and a cowboy hat. I can imagine Shamar James showing up in like a bolo tie tomorrow.
With the cowboy hat, cowboy boots.
So I'm going to go Shamar James.
Maybe he just goes straight denim tuxedo.
Yeah. In terms of knowing these guys, like we've heard a ton of Graham Mertz. He does a ton of media. Not going to get anything, I think, too exciting or inflammatory from Graham, which is exactly what Florida wants. Montrell gets a little nervous in some settings like these. This is a little peek behind the curtain. Montrell's like dropped his water bottle, like when we do our local media stuff, and I always joke with him like, oh, you've got to do push-ups. And one time he was like, oh, you're gonna do them with me? And I'm like, listen, brother, I'm 35. I know my limitations, and I know a setup when I see one. And no, I'm not getting into a push-up battle with a 20-year-old physically fit football player. No shot. No shot.
I'm just here for the cheat checks, bro. No push-ups.
Okay, I didn't say that. But yeah, Montrell's a good kid. But like SC Media Days, I hope they prepared him. It's just crazy. There's so many people there. And then I think Shamar might be potentially our wild card. He's got a ton of personality. And it's interesting too. In the NIL era, I think you're going to get more kids wanting to do this. Like it's not for everyone.
Right.
It's a very long day. Well, first off, you get the PJ flight, get the private jet, but then it's just a long day of going into the rooms and getting asked the same question different ways. I wrote a story yesterday of some questions that I think Billy Napier is going to get asked, and then I have one coming out later today about questions I think the players will get asked. But you can get some awkward questions because there's guys that don't know Florida or the situation outside of like reading it proliferarily.
You got DJ Ugaguru's name right, but you couldn't get that word, so I think
but like, I don't think it would be. It's an out-of-pocket question, but I don't know that it would be a crazy question to have somebody be like, "Hey, are you worried about getting your coach fired?" Like, how do you answer that in front of?
If only there was somebody on this podcast that was going.
Yeah, Nick would definitely ask
media
that.
days that could plant question.
That's not a me question, buddy. That's not
no.
a me
You
question.
have to plant that question. It's like a press conference, Nick. Like if I'm a politician, you find somebody to ask. Hey, Brandon Walker, you're going to be here. You have literally nothing to lose. Oh,
They
you
let
work
Brandon Walker go?
You've got nothing to lose, right?
They let a lot
You
of
asked
people
this
go.
question.
They can let Brandon in there. Then it's like really losing some
I have been known to do that while we're waiting for Billy, just like walking around and being like, hey, just like putting dropping little seeds in other writers' ears. But like, hey, what about this?
I think all three guys are pretty safe, reserved guys, like personality wise.
Yeah.
Like Shamar is cool and funny if you know him and you're around him type of vibe, but he's not gonna say anything dangerous or out of the norm. I think all three guys keep it business as usual. And that's a little rare for Florida. Like we always have big personalities that go at least one, I would say.
Not really.
I think the safest three we've ever had.
I think the last big personality was like way back in 2013 when they brought Easley. And he was interesting. Easley was just an interesting cat. But it's always kind of safe.
But even like Ricky Pearsall was still like a personality, like smile, laugh, like witty type of guy. These three, I think, are very straightforward dudes.
And what I brought up about like the NIL era though is like it might not be for everyone, but there's no bigger way to other than like playing really well than to build your brand. Like there are thousands of credentialed media for SEC Media Days every single year. Like talk about Dominic Easley. I remember somebody asked him, one of the Alabama writers asked him about Bear Bryant, and Dominic Easley was a kid from I think Brooklyn or the Bronx, and he's like, "Who's that?" And it was shocking.
The cartoon character.
It was shocking. Yeah, he was like Yogi Berra, and they were like, "What?" But like that kind of stuff would blow up. Now, I mean, it blew up for the time, but that kind of stuff would blow up now. This is a great opportunity in the NIL era to build your brand, to market yourself a little bit. I don't know that that's necessarily what the schools want. I used to go for the full week to try to ask, ask Kentucky players about the Florida matchup, or Georgia players about Florida, Georgia, to have stuff to write once the game got there. And it's always, nameless, faceless. We're worried about Northeastern, Southwesterly State Tech coming in first week. And you're like, nobody's worried about them.
Yeah.
Not a single person in your fan base is worried about them. Please, can we stop? But yeah, that's why I'm only there one day now.
Well, Nick, I hope you enjoy Dallas. I would say I hope you enjoy the Big D, but I know where that's going.
Yeah.
Let's get a quick ad read in, and then we'll talk about the issue that took over the internet by storm on Saturday and Sunday. Let's give a quick shout out. It's what we call a cliffhanger in the business, Corey. Let's give a quick shout out to our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Go visit homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale at checkout. Get 15% off of your order and free shipping. Best vintage logos on the market, softest cotton. Get your new gear ready for football season, which is just around the corner. They also have puffer jackets or the old starter jacket, there as well. And they have a couple of different unique designs and 3/4 sleeve t-shirts, as well as the baseball pullover. So go visit homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale. Get 15% off of your order and free shipping. Cormani McClain is the story that I was talking about. There was some rumors that went around Saturday and Sunday that he's just not living his up to the end of the bargain. A little bit of the rumor mill. As a preferred walk-on, we try not to talk about preferred walk-ons very often, but as such, with the buzz around him, Nick, you want to give us what you've heard on the Cormani McClain story?
No, I mean, I didn't. I wanted to just. I put things out where I want them to go, and you can't keep anything on the message board. But I think sending something on the message board, it'd be cool if it just stayed there. That's just not the case. Just that, like, it's just what we've talked about. It's just immaturity, and it's just showing up where you're supposed to be on time. Listen, I probably was the same way I know I was the same way in college. But it's when it starts to affect not just you, but your teammates, I think that's when the light should come on. If you being late is affecting you and you're having to run, then what do your teammates care? Then if they're having to wake up and do extra conditioning because of you, that's when the light should click. So, I mean, he's just a young kid. He's got the light switch got to turn on at some point. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gonna be not an easy process with whoever. If this kid figures it out, but the road to figuring it out is not gonna be an easy process. You're changing a lot of just like characteristics and like these character issues that you're working on and trying to redevelop with this young man. But he's also a walk-on, not a whole lot of risk, but even as a walk-on, you want to make sure he's not getting preferential treatment as a walk-on. Like how many walk-ons can have the team late, and make and the whole team got to run because a walk-on's late. I don't think they will accept that from the average walk-on. So it's just balancing it out, man. And Billy's got to balance how much do you deal with from this kid. If everything's true, because I'm not that close to the program. This is rumors and things we're getting back, what Nick is getting back from his sources and whatnot. But if it's true, you got to weigh it all out and determine when to cut bait if the kid's not developing and changing his habits that got him in this place in the first place.
Absolutely. I think you knew the risk when you were taking him on. You work on trying to develop and see, does it make the team better? Does it make the team worse? And make the decision from there. But yeah, so that's probably the last we'll hear of that story until something happens one way or another, but did want to make sure because it was a buzz over the weekend. So with that being said, we'll get one more final ad read in here before we welcome some conversation about Texas A&M. Let's give a quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time Sidekicks. If you are looking for a cup that looks similar to this, or even better, go check out Game Time Sidekicks. They have a bunch of different logos for the University of Florida, a bunch of other logos for other programs as well. One of the best cups that I've ever had. Very comparable to the big name brand ones that you're used to spending a ton of money on. Same quality. It's going to keep your hot drinks hot, your cold drinks cold. I've had ice in this drink since about 6:30 this morning, and it's still there. So
very nice.
We'll very much recommend Game Time Sidekicks. Go check them out. Use promo code Stadium15 at checkout. You'll get 20% off of your order. Again, GameTimeSidekicks.com. Promo code Stadium15. And then with that, we are going to welcome our friend Ryan Brauninger from TexAgs, to talk a little bit about the Gators and Texas A&M, but more importantly, just about Texas A&M football this season, what Gator fans can be prepared for. So welcome, Ryan, to the program.
I appreciate you guys having me. I told Nick yesterday, some dadgum overachievers in Gainesville were previewing a week 3 game in July.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
man.
It's a traditional rivalry, as the SEC office would like us to believe. Florida and Texas A&M go back years, decades. Even.
This is the most annoying game for me as a fan, right? Since Johnny football. Like that very first game, me getting introduced as a fan to the cowbells, well, not cowbells, but how you guys operate out there at Texas A&M with your crowd and everything. So,
well, listen, I told
matchup
Brian,
has been weird for me.
I told Bronny, I can't remember the establishment we were at, but they played the war hymn at like 12:30, and the entire place ran to the dance floor. And I was like, buddy, nobody puts the Colt in agriculture quite like the Aggies. So they've got more traditions, I think, than any school in the country, and they love them.
We had a good time that night. I was after Florida. I think Florida beat A&M, right? Or was that that was after Florida beat A&M a couple of seasons ago. And there were a lot of Gator fans in there. I had to take Nick to a honky tonk. I don't think he'd ever been to a honky tonk. And so it's a country bar with what I've experienced a country bar in Florida when we were down in Orlando for the Under Armour All-American game. I took these guys out. So it was like Nick, and I took some guys out that cover Notre Dame that live in like the Northeast, and I wanted to take them to a honky tonk, and I took them to a country bar. Well, that's very different in Florida than it is in Texas.
For sure.
So I wanted to show Nick what a proper honky tonk looked like.
Yeah, I learned myself that night. It was a good time. It's always a good time in Bryant College Station.
Did we get Nick two-stepping out there?
No. There was not enough liquid courage had, I don't believe, to get him out there.
I don't know if the building had enough liquid courage stocked to get me on the dance floor two-stepping. It's a sport
out there, man.
I'll tell you what,
I'll be out there.
It's a sport. People are out there sweating on the dance floor, not just drinking water to hydrate, but getting it in two-stepping on the dance floor on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
that's a lost thing in this era, man. People don't really dance no more in establishments. So shout out to that.
Well,
not like honky tonks, they don't.
Yeah, me and my wife, we don't typically go out, or we hardly go out anymore. But last couple of weekends ago, we went and saw a guy play live, and then we like to go dancing. And so, like, every once in a blue moon, I'll take my wife out two-stepping, and we'll cut a rug, and we'll be out of there before the kids. We'll be at home and in bed before the kids get to the bar. So that's always a perfect night in your 30s and your 40s, right?
That's right. Get Copperhead Road out there, a couple boot stomps, and then in bed before Wallen comes on. So
well,
Ryan,
I just saw this real quick. Morgan Wallen is performing September 22nd at Neyland Stadium.
There's no doubt he's going to cancel.
Garth Brooks just set the record when he was doing his stadium tour at 88,000. I can't imagine that record is going to be safe with a East Tennessee boy like Morgan Wallen showing up at Neyland. I think the story behind it is he told the baseball team if they won the national championship, sorry to bring that up, Bronny, that he would play at Neyland, and they've made it happen.
Yeah, is he going to break George Strait? George Strait was just at Kyle Field and was like 120,000 people.
I don't think he'll break that. So I mean, their stadium seats like 101, close to 102, and then
they may get there. Yeah, they may get there.
And then you can get people on the field. I'm surprised that Garth Brooks was only 88 at Neyland, given how big that stadium is. But Morgan Wallen, you're going to get more kids out to a Morgan Wallen concert than a Garth Brooks.
You mean Chris Gaines?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's just hope he doesn't get too drunk the night before and cancel. He just had to cancel his show here in Tampa. He said he was sick, but
hungover, sick, same thing.
Come for the Texas A&M conversation. Leave with Morgan Wallen hot takes. So, Ryan, just to get the show a little bit back on tracks, talk to us a little bit about Texas A&M this upcoming season. What should we expect? What's going to be different? New coaching staff in place, couple former Gator coaches on that staff. What should we expect about the new Texas A&M under Mr. Elko?
Yeah, so what I've been telling everybody is I'm not sure how I would associate what I'm about to say with win totals. But here's one thing what I'm confident in with A&M football in 2024. They're going to be more organized. They're going to be more efficient. They're going to be more disciplined. They are going to play a much more well-rounded brand of football where there's not guys like y'all watching A&M play Tennessee from your homes in Florida and going, what is A&M doing? That is a common question that Aggie fans have asked over the last 2 years. I think we're going to get a lot less of that. Just in my history with Mike Elko, I got to know him pretty well whenever he was in College Station as the defensive coordinator. I don't know if Nick told you, I coached travel baseball here for one of the largest travel baseball academies in the state of Texas. And when Coach Elko moved in here the first time, it just so happened his oldest son was in my age group. So I got to know Mike Elko as a baseball dad more than I did a football coach. And so I've gotten to sit around a lot of baseball fields across the state of Texas and really across the South with him and just talk to him and get to know him. And so because I feel like I've got that kind of background with him, I can confidently say A&M is the presentation of A&M and the operation of A&M is going to be better. Now, what does that mean in terms of wins? I don't know. But A&M, for as dysfunctional as they were the last two seasons, and especially last year, they got awful close to winning a lot of games, and they were really, really bad on offense. There was no identity. They couldn't block anybody to save their life. So I just think that with Elko, you're going to have all that talent, and it's going to be, I guess, dancing to the same tune, moving in one direction more often. And that's kind of how my expectations for A&M going into this football season. But if you're asking me what does that mean in terms of wins, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What is – I mean, obviously Jimbo, it's so funny because it's like when Jimbo leaves FSU, the FSU fans, and we're close to that, sound a lot like what you're saying now. And it seems like the FSU situation with Jimbo kind of just played out again at Texas A&M, where you start off and it's real exciting, and then you get into this like disorganization towards the end. But if I had that buyout, buddy, I'll tell you what, I'd be the first guy in the building, feet up on the desk, doing everything I can do to get fired without giving them cause to do it. Getting to know Mike Elko, and you're talking kind of about that organization, just what can you expect? You get a veteran quarterback who's maybe just had some injury history and hasn't been healthy to stay on the field, but you get a veteran quarterback back. What can we expect from the offense with Connor Wegman and Mike Elko?
Yeah, I think it's more Colin Klein, right? Because Elko is going to leave the offense 100% in the hands of Colin Klein. Elko will make the decision in terms of going forward on fourth down. Do we kick the field goal? Do we punt? Where are we at on the field? Timeouts? All that kind of stuff will be left up to Elko. But he is going to turn the offense completely over to Colin Klein, which is what Jimbo said he was going to do with Bobby Petrino. And then it turns out that wasn't necessarily the case. But so when you look and you start kind of diving into Colin Klein's offenses in his past at Kansas State, I like them. They're not gimmicky, I don't think, but they're innovative. And like, it's a good blend of old and new. And he gets to old school power running schemes with like a new age look to him. And he motions a lot, and he puts a lot of value on like moving tight ends. And they don't want to have slot receivers and outside receivers. They want to have receivers, guys that they can motion to put at any part of the formation to create matchups. And I think if Connor Wigman can grasp the offense like I think he can, I've been around Connor a long time. I think what Connor's the quarterback that I think a lot of people, or the most people in the country, don't know about. That's really good. His feel for timing, windows, trajectory. The ball's got to come out now, and it gets out now. He typically makes the right decisions in those situations. I think Connor, if he can grasp the offense and get an understanding and feel of it, I think he could be really, really productive in this league and in this system. But it's all going to come down to, is A&M going to block better? You know, like the last 2 years, they haven't blocked anybody. And that's the reason why Connor was hurt for the majority of the year last year. The game against Auburn, they're backed up. Wigman drops back, and the offensive line, as they did so often under Jimbo the last couple of years, they turned the guy completely scot-free. And he hits Wigman in the leg, and it breaks that talus bone in his ankle, and he's out for the remainder of the year. So if they can keep him upright because of his talent and because of his kind of savvy and feel for the game, I think A&M could be really efficient again and really productive offensively.
What was his injury? Because he had an injury the year before. I don't know if he was the starter 2 years ago, but he had an injury the year before too.
No, he didn't have an injury. Remember, so he played against he missed that game against Florida because he had A&M was like dealing with COVID and a virus and the flu. Mm-hmm. Like they had Devon Achane played in that game when he was sick as a dog. But A&M was beat up with injuries, COVID. They had a flu bug run through them. So that's why Connor missed that game against Florida.
Gotcha.
He didn't miss any time as a freshman. Remember, it was Jimbo kept running Haynes King and Mac Johnson out there, and they didn't put Wigman into a game until he had to against South Carolina during Wigman's freshman year. And all of a sudden, we're like, man, this kid looks like, how is this kid, when we're just watching him through his first 2 or 3 series of college football action, how is he your number 3 guy coming out of camp after what we've seen out of the first 2? And so he played extremely well against Ole Miss the following week. And then the rest of that season was kind of like really hit and miss with he got super sick. And then I can't remember what happened, but it wasn't really an injury his freshman year. It was just that he got inserted late and then got sick.
I remember that trip to Texas A&M, and it was like the list of like guys unavailable was in like the mid-30s.
Yeah.
A couple Dolphins fans here on the show, and I remember you text me right when the Dolphins picked Achane. Wild to me that kids like don't tell you what their name is like until they get to like the NFL. You're like, hey man, you've been saying my name wrong for 8 years. And you're like, oh,
no. Here's my. I do have a little bit of an excuse with Vaughn. So I started covering Devon whenever he was like end of his freshman year in high school. He was at a school that produces so much talent in Greater Houston, and I got to meet him then. I was like, "Tell me how to pronounce your name," and he was like, "I really don't care." He goes, "But most people just call me Devon A-Chain," and so that's what I went with, was Devon A-Chain, and that's kind of how we landed on that. And then he gets to the NFL, and Adam Schefter says, "No, it's Devon A-Chain or Chan." I can't even say it the proper way now because I've been calling him A-Chain the whole time. I just call him Vaughn. Anyway, I love that he's in Miami. That's a great system for him. And if the Dolphins can find some ways to play some defense or maybe keep Tua healthy for as long as Tua can be healthy, I think they can win a Super Bowl.
We're America's team.
Let's go.
We are America's team.
Devon is the best. Like, people ask me all the time. I've been covering high school football for almost a decade now. Been watching it my whole life. The best player, who's the best player you've ever covered? It's Devon A-Chain. Like, easy, like right out of my mouth. I don't even have to think about it. It's still him by a country mile.
Oh,
you guys, you guys' schedule is laid out pretty nice. I was looking over you guys' schedule, so your home games are pretty stacked in your favor. One of the few away games is coming to Florida. You have Texas. It started off at College Station. Then you have McNeese State. How important is starting off good? Depending on how the Texas game go and the Florida game go, you could possibly start off 1-2. Going on the road to Florida, how important is that game for Mike Elko's to have a successful season?
Well, just start with that Texas game. Like, what is that like to have?
Well, that's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
It's Notre Dame week 1. Texas is at the
end. Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
So the Notre Dame game is obviously super interesting because Elko was the defensive coordinator there before coming to A&M. And now the Fighting Irish quarterback is Riley Leonard, who was Mike Elko's quarterback at Duke last season. And so there's a lot of intrigue with that game. College Game Day will be here. I think I don't know anything really about Notre Dame. I know they lost a lot of their production last year, but they're kind of in a similar situation with A&M where, like, I think they're going to be good. We know that Marcus Freeman is going to have them really well coached and well drilled. But in terms of like how I anticipate that outcome being, first of all, it's going to be 1,000 degrees in College Station that day, like, no doubt. How does Notre Dame handle that? And then, like, A&M's got so many new pieces. What they did in the transfer portal, they're going to have some really high impact freshmen come in. So I'm really super interested to see kind of how A&M handles that environment. As well as Notre Dame. But yeah, you're right. I think that Florida game is a really swing game early in the year for Mike Elko. Look, everybody with at A&M, like, I think that the entire 12th man fan base is going to give Elko some leeway here. Like, they just had the worst taste in their mouth after Jimbo. They're confident in the kind of guy that Elko is. They are confident in the organizational structure that he's put together. And then he's shown some real chops on the recruiting trail so far. So A&M's going to field a talented team again. But yeah, that week 3 game in Florida, I mean, you guys tell me, depending on how Florida's season goes, is that Florida's biggest swing game or one of them? Because at least early in the year, because the narrative, at least the way I look at it, the narrative for Billy Napier is going to be formed in the first 4 or 5 weeks as regards to what the future of his job status in Gainesville looks like.
Be week 1.
Yeah, and you're right. It could be week 1. But if they lose to Texas A&M in week 3, you know, how quickly is the fan base clamoring, and they probably already are, for DJ Lagway to start? And then if Billy feels the pressure to play DJ, is DJ ready to play every day at that point? Like, it's just a tough spot if the Gators can't rattle off some early wins and build some goodwill with the fan base. That's my opinion.
You're spot on. I think you're spot on, 100%.
To me, it's interesting because in the transfer portal era, like, Miami had a big transfer portal class. How ready are you? How cohesive are you running week 1? And then when I look at Florida's schedule, the way it sets up, you get Samford after that, and then 2 first-year head coaches, which is what you were kind of just talking about. And it's like you're still implementing your culture. And I go back to Mark Stoops taking a shot at Shane Beamer last year, saying it's easy to change the climate. It's much more difficult and takes more time to change a culture. So I think Mike Elko might be able to change the climate quickly, but first-year head coach, you might take some missteps. Go back to the first time Florida and Texas A&M played. If Florida would have caught Johnny Manziel in November instead of in their first game, that game might have played out differently. So I think it plays in Florida's favor to get Miami opening weekend when they're still working in a new quarterback, working in new players. I think it plays in their favor to get Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby early, to get Mike Elko and Texas A&M early. And then when you look at that November schedule, those 5 games in November, it's brutal. So Florida has to get wins early. I would say beating Texas A&M, it looks bad if you lose to Texas A&M and a first-year head coach at home. But I would look at like Tennessee and Kentucky maybe, and that might just be me still stuck in the East-West, even though there are no more divisions. But like getting a win at Tennessee, because Billy Napier's program is 2-10 away from home. I think that's bigger for Florida, and not becoming the first Florida coach to start your career 0-3 against Kentucky. I think that's bigger too. But I do think, at least in my mind, getting the first-year head coaches in that first month of the season, does it put more pressure on you to get wins? But I think it's also fortunate to get coaches early on in the year when they're in their first year of a program.
Yeah, no, I think I don't mean to cut you off, Braunie, my bad. But yeah, I'm with you a little bit, because the game one you're going against Cristobal, who came in the same time. You both got the job at the same time, so I think that game is just important for both of you guys. But you can have that game at home, and then you got back to back like easy game with Sanford, and then you have new coaches. You can't lose those games. If not, the media here the fans here are gonna start bubbling a little bit more than they are right now, right? So yeah, the start to that season is very important to this whole regime, starting game one.
Well, and let me ask you guys this: how do you, if you're looking and comparing rosters right now, I don't know how much y'all dove in. Like, here's one thing. I've said all that about Mike Elko and his organizational structure, and I think A&M is going to be a more efficient operation, all that kind of stuff. Look, he's going to do that with real talent, especially on the defensive side. Like, they got real dudes. They got a first-rounder and the Big Ten sack leader last year, Nick Scorton at defensive end, who's from right up the road in Bryan. And then on the other side, they've got Shamar Stewart, who's a Miami kid that they convinced to stick around. And like everything we've heard is he's starting to turn into the freak of nature that we anticipated him to be whenever he got to A&M. And then you're looking at a preseason all-conference linebacker in Torian York. You guys know about some of the pieces that came from Gainesville that are, going to fit in somewhere maybe in the depth chart of the A&M defense. But they got we're pretty bullish on this Aggie defense, and it's run by Jay Bateman.
Yeah, I like Jay Bateman a lot. He won me over. I just happened to see him talking to scouts, and he was pounding the table for Ventrell Miller and Amari Burney, 2 guys who were redshirt seniors who he had known for 4 or 5 months at that time, and just pounding the table to NFL scouts about what these guys can do. That's when he won me over. Florida's not, judging by the way Florida has tackled, and listen, it was a problem before Jay Bateman was there. Florida was not, I don't think fans were not too sad to see Jaden Hill and was it Scooby? Scooby's there, and Scooby leave. But I love Sean Spencer. I think he's a dynamite recruiter. Really relates to the kids. His players love playing for him. I think he's a great guy. But yeah, it's almost like Gainesville West out there on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, but here's the thing: I don't know. Scooby will probably play some at linebacker. I'd hesitate to put him in as the starter next to Torian York. Jaden Hill, they're moving to a full-time nickel role. I don't know that he is going to be the starter at nickel, but he'll play. So both those guys come in, and they've been positive additions to the A&M defense. But one thing that Jimbo got right was the recruiting, man. They got real talent here, and with Mike Elko helping Bateman on the defensive side, like I said, the A&M fan base, we are generally when we talk about which side of the ball would be the better of the two this year, it'll be the defensive side for A&M.
You're muted, Dan. First time podcasting.
Sorry, first time, long time on the show. You'll be happy to know that a couple of years ago, I coined the phrase, the season will go as Jaden Hill goes. He got injured. Dan Mullen was fired. And so hopefully your season goes the way Jaden Hill goes. I've been a huge fan of him for a long time. Was sad and disappointed. Everybody knows to see him leave. So I think he'll be an impactful player for you guys. Had a really good year last year, especially
first year playing nickel last year as well. Had a really good year. And we had questions about him.
Best year.
he's had multiple knee injuries, and we thought, what's it going to look like inside when you're playing closer against shiftier guys? Do you still have that cut, and can you react and move? And he answered all those questions. He had his best year at Florida playing nickel.
Yeah, I can tell you what, Scooby Williams, like off the bus, that guy looks like incredible. And
looks great.
If you can tell him which direction to run and he gets it right, like I think he can make a bunch of plays.
He had issues tackling, which when you play linebacker is not the issue you want.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I understand that he had his pitfalls in Florida, and I think A&M may be hoping if they pair him next to a guy. Of course, I know the guy he played next to at Florida was hugely productive too, but a kid like Torian York, who's going to have like an elite feel for the game and is like as natural of a linebacker as you can possibly have, does that help Scooby Williams start running in the right direction? We'll see.
Good luck with that, man. You got the same two guys who sent them in the direction for us last year, man. So I hope it works out. Jimbo did recruit well, but one of the biggest things he left was like the Stenchi culture. How fast do you think Elko could flip that?
Well, I think the first thing that when you talk about culture in any kind of college sporting arena, I think you have to look at the strength and conditioning staff and what left and what was brought in. So Jimbo had a guy, Jerry Schmidt, who was legendary in the game. He got him from Oklahoma. He decided he wanted to go back to Norman a couple of years ago. And what did Jimbo do with that hire? He went downstairs and promoted a guy that had never been a strength coach before, that a lot of folks were going, is he ready for this? Okay. So I think that was kind of an underrated or under talked about part of maybe Jimbo as the structure started to crumble around him, was kind of the hires he made. You know, he had an offensive line coach job come open. He hired Florida great Steve Adazio. And then he has, there was just a lot of hires that came and went, even on the recruiting staff, that kind of left you scratching your head the last couple of years. So what did Elko do whenever he got in? The first thing he did, one of the first things he did, was hire Tommy Moffitt, who had been at LSU forever and who folks in Baton Rouge just rant and rave about him being like the reason why LSU's guys were all running in the same direction and running hard for 60 minutes of football for all those years under Les Miles and under Ed O. Like, he'd been there forever. He spanned a bunch of different coaching staffs. And so I think hiring Tommy Moffitt, who's now literally my next door neighbor, like he just moved in, like right next door to me, which I got to quit mowing the grass with my shirt off now, I guess, because the strength and conditioning guy's next door.
Hey, you don't want to intimidate the strength and conditioning coach. I get it.
But no, it's so I think, but everything we've heard about Tommy Moffitt has been just, exactly what the program needed. And it ruffled some feathers early on, and it needed to. And I think just talking, we have some kids in that come in for NIL interviews and different kinds of appearances, and getting to sit down and talk to them, throughout the course of the summer. And they are on, it's like an NFL thing, man. Like, if you're late to a workout, there's no more, oh, you're just 30 seconds late, nobody cares. Like, no, like, it's all accountable. Like, it's all held accountable. And the kids, it's taken some getting used to, but they understand that it's needed. And again, like, how does that pay off in wins? I don't know, but I know, I can just tell you guys that the way the program is being run is almost 180 degrees different now, and it's what it was needed.
Gotcha.
I want to get into.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan. Mine's not about Florida at all. Go ahead.
No, I know Texas A&M. Well, mine's not really either. I know Texas A&M lost a few folks. Most notably, I guess, Evan Stewart in the transfer portal. Looks like Ja'Day Walker, Noah Thomas, and Moose Muhammad III. You guys probably remember his father from the NFL. What does Texas A&M look like on at the wide receiver position? And I know you guys were able to steal a recruit from Florida. Our Texas A&M was able to steal a recruit from Florida at the end there, Isaiah Williams. Is he a guy that's anticipated to play much this season, or if he is, probably? Give us a little background on that. I guess.
Yeah, Isaiah Williams is going to play, and they love him. They think he's a really good player. Now, what the names you mentioned will be the starter. That's where A&M's biggest question is actually offensively, and it's crazy in a state like Texas that is one of the big schools would have questions at receiver, but that's just kind of how the roster turnover happened. They were able to bring in some guys out of the transfer portal. Cyrus Allen out of Louisiana Tech is a kid that they anticipate playing a lot. They got a huge blow in the spring. They got a transfer out of Troy, Jabri Barber, who they thought was going to be dynamite, like replace Anaya Smith and be able to return punts. And he went down in the spring with a Liz Frank injury, so they may get him toward the back half of the season. I don't anticipate him being ready to play when A&M goes to Gainesville. But, yeah, so Noah Thomas, Ja'Day Walker, Moose Muhammad all have, like, good SEC playmaking ability. Like, just those guys in and of themselves would be probably right in the middle of the road to the top half of the league in terms of receivers. What A&M's going to have to find is some depth, and Isaiah Williams will provide some of that. And they got a kid out of East Texas, and it was one of their 5-stars who could be a two-way player. He is just so gifted with the ball in his hands. They're going to start him as a DB, but with the opportunity to also play a little bit of receiver and return kicks. So, I do think that receiver is definitely A&M's biggest question mark in terms of their offensive talent and depth. But I also think it's kind of mitigated by a tight end room that's pretty talented.
What is it's interesting. I guess the Longhorn Network's no longer a thing as of July 1st with Texas coming over. What is just the mood? I mean, that used to be a premier game. I guess we'll get it back this year. Just what is the mood in Aggie land about Texas joining the conference and then that game, which I think definitely highly anticipated from the rest of us. I don't know if it's highly anticipated from Aggie fans who got away from Texas, joined the SEC first, and then here come the Longhorns tagging along.
Yeah. So what happened on the baseball front, I think, has only added more fuel to that fire. Yeah. So A&M was, I think, the fan base was ready to get Texas back and playing them. When you look at like how all this happened, I just think that the method of Texas coming into the league was what A&M fans didn't like, how it was kind of sprung on them out of nowhere. And, I think A&M fans will warn the rest of the league about, hey, what's coming in. I've heard a lot of folks say it's Alabama on steroids in terms of kind of how they view themselves. But regardless of all that, I think the A&M fan base, I think the Texas fan base are pumped to have the game back. It's good for the state of Texas, and I think it's good for college football.
Explain to Gator fans. They don't know much about the University of Texas. What do you mean by Alabama on steroids?
You ain't gonna get a clip of me. They can run through Twitter and just come on, Nick.
Let me just listen before you go.
Yeah, listen. I'm not going to watch a middle fastball, man. I'm going to at least take a swing.
I'll let you guys look. Here's what I'll do. You guys can watch them from afar, and then maybe when the Texas and Florida game comes across the schedule, you guys can experience for yourself, and then you can form an opinion. How about that? That's the PC correct answer, I think.
I'm looking forward to getting out to the great city of Austin.
Likewise.
Very pretty city. A lot of stuff to do. A lot of things to see too, if you're depending on what you want to look at.
For sure. We want to look at what you looking at. We got to see.
What do you mean?
Listen, I will have a daughter at that time. I'm sure your beautiful wife, who was nice enough to let me stay there the last time I was in College Station, is already in your head about bringing a boy or girl into this lifetime. So I'm not looking at anything in Austin. We're watching the game. Maybe hit up Joe Rogan's comedy place.
Y'all plucking out your eyes and going to a football game. That's wild.
Hey, man. Look, I'm not saying anything about anybody. I'm saying you go and you judge. And there's a lot of things to look at. Maybe you find something you like.
Yeah.
They say it's bigger in Texas, so I'll let you know.
Right, and it will be, I think too, like, if this was the direction that college football was going, and I think it always was, like, I didn't foresee a future where Texas and Oklahoma remained in the Big 12 just because of what we could see coming on the horizon. Mm-hmm. So if this was the direction of college football and this was inevitable, then it might as well have happened sooner rather than later. Like whatever the long-term situation is for this sport that we all love so much, whatever that long-term situation looks like, I prefer that we get to it as soon as possible so that we can all settle into this new age and just deal with it. Right. But the constant flow of both player acquisition to coaching turnover to the general calendar of recruiting, like all of this stuff that's constantly in flux, I'm ready for it to stop. And for whatever the final product, the final copy is going to look like, for us to deal in that world. So if revenue sharing is coming, let's get it. Let's go. I know it's going to suck for probably 60, 70% of the athletic programs across the country are going to have to figure out, okay, do we keep football and cut 8, 6, 7 other sports? Or do we cut football and keep everything else? Those are real conversations that a lot of schools are going to be having. Not Florida, not Texas A&M, not the majority of this league, and not the majority of the ACC. But there is a lot of like traditional stuff that you like to watch on TV, a lot of schools that are going to have to make these decisions.
Right.
And I hate it, but that's where we're at. But if that's what we're going to do, let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's get there.
Yeah, I think we're going to lose a lot of baseball programs across the country. It's a sport that doesn't make money, that costs a lot of money. And like you said, we're going to lose a lot of the Olympic sports, not just baseball. I bring baseball up because we've lost a bunch of baseball programs, in the last decade just because trying to balance out a budget sheet. But yeah, with revenue sharing coming and Title IX, trying to figure that out, thousands of questions that people who get paid more money than we do are going to have to figure out answers to. But I think, listen, football, basketball writes the checks at most places. You're not going to lose those at schools like Florida, Texas A&M, Clemson, Texas, Alabama. But I think we're going to lose a lot of Olympic sports here in the coming years.
Hey, so what are you guys' thoughts on Florida and the swamp and like renovation and expansion? Because in my trips there, once I got into the stadium and into my seats, I thought it was awesome. Like one of my favorite places I've ever been. That being said, once I got to the gate, from the gate to my seat, it was not a very enjoyable experience. So what's coming on that front?
I think there's a lot of there's a lot of discussion. Nothing has been really announced yet. Obviously, with any major renovation that you do, you have to get into compliance with ADA, and there's a lot of other things that come into effect there.
Sure.
My favorite thing about UF's field, especially having been a student there and everything else, is how close it is to the sidelines. Right, it's not built out, it's built up, which Kyle Field is too. Right. I really like that feeling of being close. I think that Florida's going to lose seats. I think they're going to lose probably 10,000 seats. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that they're going to make the experience better. I do think that you're no longer just competing. This is my thing about sports, right? And I think I've said on the show last year was you're no longer just competing with people have a TV at home or it's more comfortable to be at home. You're now just competing with eyeballs in general, right? Between phones and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and all these other things that are trying to get your attention, that you're going to have to make it a more enjoyable experience for those individuals to go and want to come to Gainesville and spend an easy $2,500 for a weekend to come watch a football game if you're going to stay in town, right? So what are you doing to make those improvements? The Gators need huge improvements to the concourses, huge improvements to the bathroom. And I think with that, you're going to have to make some overall stadium changes. And I think that it's coming soon. But Florida's experience is great. Florida's stadium as a whole could use some work.
Yeah, but here's the thing is like in this day and age of college football, until there is revenue sharing, where's the value in spending money on concrete?
That's what my take is. I think we're always doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, right? And I don't think it's time for renovation. I think the product on the field is what the fans are going to be more agitated at most than the ticket experience up until like the sitting down, all of that. I think NIL, all of that is more where our investment as a program. These are two totally different conversations. I get it, but it just seems like as a program, we're always doing something late. Like I think the Billy Napier hire would have been fired a few years ago before NIL came about. The organization, how he has it set up would have been dope in a different era. But right now, it's just like we're behind with our moves. I'm not mad at a stadium upgrade, but it just seems like our focus should be other places.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting discussion I think that everybody's having around college football and college sports in general is like, when is the right time to spend money on buildings and facilities, right? Because that's a lot of money that you've got to raise that could be going to getting the players to help fill the current buildings, facilities that you got.
I think the answer is never and always at the same time. There's never a right time to make a stadium upgrade. right? Because you can be like, oh, the Gators are doing, or Texas A&M, they're doing really, really well in football. This is our opportunity. We've got the excitement, we've got the energy, and then all of a sudden you're going to say, hey, we're decreasing the size of the stadium, right? Or there's going to be massive renovations that close part of the stadium, right? Because building a stadium can't just happen during an off season to make those kind of improvements, right? So there's going to be times that the experience is encumbered, right? And do you do that when the team's doing really well and there's less people that can go to a game during that time? Or do you do it when the team is maybe not doing as well, that when they do inevitably get back to performing well, those things have already been done, right?
Well, that's what they did in College Station. It was like in sections when they renovated their stadium.
Yeah. And that, I did think like it was a little bit of a hassle, especially during those years where there was a transition from the old to the new. But going back and looking at it now, I actually think it was the best way to do it. And A&M, they just finished like some big facility, like the funding on some big facilities right before this revenue share stuff. So like they've been a little bit lucky with their timing on some of this stuff. And I don't know that they could foresee it coming. And I think it may have been coincidental. That's why I called it lucky. But yeah, man, like it's a real conversation that a lot of athletic directors are having to have. And look, Trev Alberts came in from Nebraska and he fired 19 people in the A&M athletic department, and he was kind of vilified for it. But what he saw coming is this revenue sharing, and he's going, we've got to come up with $20 or $21 million that we don't have right now that is not going to have like a return on investment. So you can't have Nick De La Torre, the biggest Florida donor. You can't go to him and say, hey, man, we need $10 million for you to invest in our athletic department, and you're going to get X amount in return, whether it be seating, experience, whatever it is. You don't get any of that back. So where is this money going to come from? And that's whenever you start having this conversation about how is this going to be affordable for a lot of the smaller athletic departments?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that I'm sure Strickland is going to have to make some big time budget decisions coming very soon if this is the road we're going down. So like, yeah, maybe Trev Alberts got vilified for it early, but could we start seeing more and more athletic departments have to make cuts to be able to afford what's coming?
Yeah, I think the way it's going, I don't know that if I worked for a university, I don't know that I would feel comfortable with my job security unless my job directly impacted players' lives or directed or was in charge of like getting extra funding to help NIL, to help players. I think that's kind of the way we're moving. Florida, the last time I talked to Scott Strickland publicly, I said, yeah, you have this $400 million earmarked investment. And he said, that's really a starting point for renovations to the swamp. And I'm thinking, that's a lot of money to be asking for while you're also asking for every single year, hey, we need X amount of dollars for the football team just to be competitive, keep our roster, and then go out and get a signing class and a transfer portal class. And that's money that the only return you're getting is maybe a successful football season, but everyone else is also throwing money into that same market.
Yeah, and we've kind of got a far field from y'all's topic, and this is y'all's show, and be it far from me for trying to direct the conversation. But I also think that there's a discussion that needs to be had about what NIL is currently, and if it's coming to an end, maybe we don't even need to talk about it. But, man, I've gotten in the last week, guys, and I've reported this on TexAgs. In the last week, I've heard from 4 or 5 players that went to different schools in the class of 2024 out of the state of Texas that I covered, who were made massive NIL promises by schools where they went, and they are getting not even close to the money that they were promised in their first couple of months on campus. And so, like, you hear these lofty sums of money being offered for guys. Like, I get it in the state of Texas, like, X school offered this kid $850,000, and he's a high school offensive lineman. Okay, if you're going to pay a high school offensive lineman $850,000, when I know your NIL budget is probably $8 to $10 million, you're going to spend that much money on one kid? How is that possible? And then when he gets to campus and all your other offensive linemen, you've got a left guard who's been grinding for 3 years and has played in the league, and he's making $125, and he sees this freshman come in making $850. What's that going to do? Like, at some point, like, when do we start hearing about these broken promises in NIL, a Jaden Rashada maybe-esque, but on a national level? Because it's happening, man. I know you guys have seen it, but it's happening. and we got to stop it. Like it comes down like every college coach, when Billy Napier hosts official visits, he should have a calculator on his desk, and he should go, what do you think your son, how much money do you think your son should make in NIL, or whether it be a trainer or coach? And they say X amount. Okay, if I pay him X amount, here's what I have left for the other 64 scholarship or 84 scholarship players. Like it's a math equation. And for me, and I'm going to write an article about this on TexAgs this week, the math ain't mathing.
Yeah.
I think the math is going to start mathing when unionizing happens, and there's no way boosters and collectives are going to be able to tote the bill to what these programs need to actually function, because what they have isn't, I don't think, efficient to pay what these kids are worth, just to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like that the amount of money you saying they had budget wise, that's cool for like a smaller program, but the programs our size, the value of what these kids bring to the table is definitely higher. And I think you really don't get the true worth and get the pressure off of these collectives and off of like these coaches when the institutions are involved in paying these kids in some sort. And that's going to become in a union type fashion, in my opinion.
The people that are paying are footing the majority of these bills for these kids. And it's usually a select number of donors for every school is paying the vast majority of it.
Right.
Those are typically very wealthy people. Well, they didn't become very wealthy by just dumping their
giving away money.
Bad investments.
With no return on their investment.
Right.
So yeah, there is certainly that aspect of it. But you also have, like, think about the NFL. When Deshaun Watson got that contract from Cleveland, remember how pissed everybody else in the NFL got? It was because they reset the market for quarterbacks. Well, that's the NFL, where by and large, for the most part, all of those owners are wanting to play by some kind of financial fair play, right? Everybody, they like to be in similar ranges. Some may spend a little bit more than others, but they like to work together on these things so you don't reset the market. In college football, if Colorado offers an offensive tackle $900,000 and it's a kid at IMG Academy in the state of Florida, like that, the market gets reset because you've got nobody that wants to have any idea or any notion of playing together financially. They're all looking for the next leg up. And so like these markets for these kids keep getting reset. And if it's an offensive tackle out of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, if X school, if USC offers him $850,000, what do you think the next offensive lineman at IMG is going to think he's worth?
Yep.
That's the
same thing.
Yeah,
it's a low bar now. So like we've heard Billy talk about it. I'm sure other coaches, you want a salary cap. The interesting part though is NIL is supposed to be, in the spirit of it, it's a sponsorship deal. And it's, what does a company think me broadcasting their brand, what is that worth? And you can't, in our capitalist society, you can't put a salary cap on what Ryan Brauninger or what TexAgs thinks, hey, this is worth, we want the starting quarterback on our show. If let's say we wanted DJ Lagway on our show and we had $1 million to give him for this football season, you can't put a salary cap on that. So it'll be interesting to see how you cap it. And I don't know that NIL goes away, because even when we get to revenue sharing, what's that stopping a wealthy donor from starting a collective and being like, that's cool. A&M can give you $85,000 a year. I can give you an extra $120,000.
Yep.
If you do a commercial for my car dealership. So I don't know if NIL goes away. We just now have like minimum roster money going to people.
Makes me think that we are about to enter private equity of college sports, and that there's going to be an owner or an ownership group of Florida Gator athletics. You know what I'm saying? Like, because these people that are dumping all the money in, okay, I'll dump all this money in if you start giving me some money back and there's a return on it. And I think that's the way that professional sports is, right? They all have owners or ownership groups. College sports is going that way. Like, if you would have told me this 2 years ago, I said, you're crazy. Ownership in college football. But with the way things are moving, I don't think it sounds far-fetched now.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? Because like Nick said, it's about sponsoring the player. You want potential salary caps. I think that you're going to get donor fatigue. I think you already have it. You know, Florida's dealing with donor fatigue right now. And I think that that's a thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that like rich people aren't just asked to give money to the football program. They're asked to give money by a lot of charitable organizations, the college and university that they went to. There's families, right? Creating an estate for themselves and heirs and everything else. So I think that you're going to get donor fatigue, especially when it comes to these recurring payments that never go away, right? If you're asked to donate to build a stadium, once you donate the money, that part of the stadium is built, and then you move on to the next thing. If you have to fund recruiting classes in perpetuity, you're just going to get a situation where donors are, unless the fan base just says, hey, spend more money. Why is X booster so poor now? It's like, because you're asking them to give $5 million a year for the rest of his life, right?
In perpetuity, yeah.
Yeah.
And then at what point do we start? Is there a point that comes where players are deducted payments for missing class, missing practice? Like, where does this thing go? Again,
or getting fined.
Yeah, right. I don't know where it's going, but wherever we're going, I want to get there.
Yeah. I think that's eventually a thing, but just like the NFL have and the Players Association, college football players would need the same thing to negotiate on their behalf what they want, in the deal. And same thing on the opposite side as far as the institutions or ownership group, like you say. I think that's an interesting concept that you brought up, because I think that's a possible thing as well, which would be very foreign to football altogether, getting some type of ownership group. Go ahead, Dan.
I know Florida State looked into some private equity stuff. I don't remember if it certainly wasn't around paying players. I think it was around the stadium rebuild and some other athletic department concerns that they were having. Rob here, and then we can let you run, Ryan. I know it's been a long show so far. He's like, that's why the Gators need to call a Saudi soccer club owner and show them the benefits of big time college football.
Yes.
So
have a Florida Gators live team. What are we doing here?
Hey, so if I were to set the over-under for Florida's win total this year at 6.5, where y'all going?
In Vegas.
I think that's a better number than the 4.5. I'm over 4.5. I play the negative role on this show, so I'll go under. I think Florida's
in life
6 and 6.
That's why Nick's Twitter mentions are like at halftime when he does the Q&A. I always scroll through.
Negative Nick. That's a negative Nick.
No, I like that over under at 6. Getting over that 6 is where I draw my line as far as creating a hot board for coaches. Is at 6. If we get over the hump of 6, I think we need to get 7 wins or better.
Yeah, I'm going to go over just because I want to be optimistic about spending the next, 4 months, spending 3 hours, 4 hours every Saturday watching this team. So I want to at least see some victories. But
and then when does DJ Lagway play? When does DJ Lagway play? Does he make
game 1?
No, hold on. Start. I should say
starts. I don't think he'll start this year.
I think
that's a different view.
Look at Silk sitting back, adjusting the glasses.
I think he's gonna have to win some games, man. It's gonna be hard to keep that kid in the fold. And I don't think this is saying that Mercer's gonna play bad. Like he didn't play bad last year, but that wasn't good enough for us to have a successful season. So while Mertz may be pedestrian, getting managing the offense, keeping the turnovers down, the numbers are decent. Probably upwards in the SEC as far as like yards and whatnot, but win totals is gonna matter. I think
what if Florida's 3-3 to start the year?
That's tough because
depending on what the 3-3 look like.
Yeah, I think so. I've written to this. I don't know that there's necessarily a black and white hard out on a number, but if you're like, there might be some people that are really happy with a 5-7 season, but those 5 wins are Georgia, Miami, UCF, FSU, and Texas.
Right.
Like that's a ridiculous 5 if you're thinking of the 7 that they would lose.
Nick has us losing to Samford, but beating Georgia and Texas. I love this analogy. Keep going, Nick. This is super realistic.
But like you can't go to Georgia, you can't go to Jacksonville and lose to Georgia by 20 again and look like you're not competing. So there's a path to 6 and 6 where you feel really good about it, but you're competitive against Georgia. You might be 7 and 5, which is a better record than 6 and 6, but get the brakes beaten off of you in Jacksonville, get the brakes beaten off of you in Austin, Texas, and you're not looking competitive. So I think it's really more of what the wins and losses look like for Florida. But like starting 3-3, you don't feel good because the rest of that schedule is Georgia, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. So if you
yeah.
start 3-3, you're looking like
this
6
is my
6 is a
thought.
pipe dream.
Sorry, so this is my thought.
You good.
Is DJ Lagway is the bell cow of this recruiting class, right? He has been anointed a savior. I think that DJ Lagway is at the University of Florida because of Billy Napier, Ryan O'Hara, and a very nice monthly paycheck from the Gator Collective. Right?
I would throw Jimbo Fisher and Damian Craig in that mix somewhere, but I digress.
Yeah, no. So you have those 5 entities involved, right? I don't know if Billy Napier's here next year. And if Billy Napier's not here next year, I don't know if DJ Lagway is at the University of Florida either. Right?
That's why I asked, what happens if they start 3-3? Does Billy press the Lagway button because in an attempt to save himself?
So
I think the offense. Go ahead, Nick.
It's interesting because you can't make a decision on a head coach based on one player, whether or not you think that player is your future or not.
Right.
Florida to me is almost like in that Tennessee situation, where they had Joe Milton, they had their 37-year-old quarterback who was in his 15th year of college football, and you're going to run with that, but you have Nico waiting in the wings. To me, and I said this, we're talking to kids who are recruits who are coming to campus, and they're like talking about DJ Lagway like he's Michael Jackson. They're like, I got to meet DJ Lagway today. And I'm like, this is an 18-year-old kid. What are you talking about? This isn't, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles. But if I have a 5-star receiver on campus, I don't even need to introduce you to Graham Mertz. You're never going to need to know Graham Mertz. You need to know DJ Lagway, so that you're in a balancing act where Graham Mertz probably gives you your best chance to win football games right now, and you need to win football games right now to keep your job. But the future is DJ Lagway, and you need to get him playing time. Mm-hmm. He needs to play more snaps against Samford than Graham Mertz does because you have a lead against Samford. He needs to play at Mississippi State and hear what those cowbells sound like. He needs to play at Tennessee to feel what that rivalry is. He needs to play against Georgia in Jacksonville because he needs to not figure out what that stuff is in 2025 when he's the starter. He needs to know what it feels like now. So there's a delicate balancing act in my mind of Graham gives you the best chance to win now, and you need to win now to have a chance to coach DJ next year, but you don't want DJ being completely green when you play. And if you're at a point where you're 5-6 heading into the Florida State game, I think there will be a lot of people just clamoring to start DJ against Florida State.
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
I think as far as like the starting quarterback, the offense has looked totally different, I think, with Anthony Richardson and Graham Mertz. When Anthony was there, we were way more explosive, I thought. And I think his legs and the RPO opened up the run game for the running backs and all of that. With Graham Mertz in, he's going to be efficient and get your dumps off and be accurate with the pass in short distances. But the explosiveness in the offense, you lose a lot of it with Graham Mertz just from watching the first 2 seasons of these coaches having an RPO guy that can actually run it. And what the offense could be, that's why I think you end up having to see Lagway from that standpoint. While the offense could be good and efficient, it won't be explosive enough, and these guys aren't great enough play callers to methodically move down the field regularly. They just don't have it in them. They need players to play outside of their skull and make explosive plays in the run game. Trey Wilson catching some in the screen game and breaking, but a Lagway ability to run and actually execute an RPO is going to open up some of that for them. And I think that's why you end up seeing Lagway more if we're at 3-3. Just because the offense, it'll be okay, but it won't be good enough. So, he can elevate the play of guys around him through the RPO.
But you've got to create situations. So like when Emory Jones was starting, Anthony Richardson was in the wings. Like you saw just enough of Anthony that there was still positivity and hype going around into the offseason. If you're turning the ball over to DJ Lagway and Florida's struggling offensively and defensively, and you're just like, hey, I guess we're going to start on the last 5 games of the year against that slate, do you ruin the positivity because it's already looked bad, and now you're putting the rest of it on DJ?
Or the development. Do you ruin the development?
Yeah.
And do you shoot a kid's confidence that I've known DJ, he's literally from right down the road. I go see DJ a lot whenever he was being recruited. And super kid. Like I'm DJ, I'm a huge fan of. And I told him that whenever he committed to Florida, I walked up to him on the sideline. I said, hey, man, like, I may not ever get to cover you, but I will be a massive DJ Lagway fan no matter where you go in your career. Just a great kid. But you do have to, and we see it a lot in baseball, Nick, like kind of how do you bring these young kids along without blowing their confidence if they're not ready? And so the kids are always going to think they're ready. It takes some real foresight and some real backbone as a coach and a coaching staff to say, hold on, dude, I'm not ready to run you out there just yet. I'm thinking about your entire career, not today. So, yeah, I think it's a delicate balance that Billy has to play. And I'm glad that A&M has an incumbent starter in Connor Wigman, who we're just praying stays healthy, because I think, it's two opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, this is Wigman's thing. He's going to take it and run with it. Whereas I think in Gainesville, y'all are going, okay, like we know what we got in Mertz. It's efficient. It can be good at times. But DJ's an eraser for whatever problems we may have offensively. Lagway can be the eraser and give us those explosive plays.
Yeah. Right. And with that is going to come a learning curve. And Graham Mertz is likely a NFL bound quarterback. He had a pretty good year last year, right? Definitely was not as efficient at times as Gator fans probably wanted to move the ball down the field a little bit more, but never turned the ball over. He had 3 interceptions, and 2 of them went right through the hands of the tight end, and then 1 went right through the hands of the wide receiver, right? So it's a delicate balance in a year where I don't envy Graham Mertz's situation, and knowing that the Gator fan base is clamoring for DJ Lagway. I'm not envious of DJ Lagway's position of everybody thinking that I'm the savior. And I'm certainly not envious outside of the paycheck that I would receive if I got fired of being in Billy Napier's position either.
Hey, can we just do one thing when A&M goes to Gainesville? Can y'all wear those awesome Ninja Turtle jerseys again? Those were so cool.
Oh, no. We burned
about
those.
how we wish they were in the new EA Sports game.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Brownie. We got rid of those things, man. We need the Men in Black Dapper.
Those are so bad.
That's such a nice conversation. We didn't realize Bronny had a can of gasoline as he was walking out. Just flicked a match behind him. Unbelievable.
I lied about those though, Bronny. I was pretending to like them because it was just such a rough season. I was just like, yeah, those are cool.
I was at that game. It was heinous.
For sure.
I didn't even want to cheer for the team. It didn't even feel like I was at a Gators game. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
I appreciate you, my friend. Let everybody know where they can follow you for anything Texas A&M related on social media.
Yeah, so TexAgs is the company I work for, TexAgs. We're the largest sports media company covering A&M, so you follow us on all social media platforms there. And then I'm mainly active on Twitter with my TexAgs stuff. I have an Instagram, but it's more my personal life stuff, and nobody cares about that. So Twitter, R_Brauninger. You can find me there. I'm doing a lot of baseball stuff. Man, Aggie baseball has just been to the forefront, but we're slowly turning the page as we get ready for football and recruiting heating up. And I'm looking forward to it, man. And I'm working on it. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I've got to ask permission from the wife to get to Gainesville, but I'd love to go back down to the swamp. I had such a great time last time.
Absolutely. Nick can take you to a couple honky tonks that are in the area as well.
Something like that.
Leave Nick out.
Yeah, leave Nick out. Well, Ryan, we appreciate it, my friend. Thanks so much for hanging out for an hour with us today, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, Ronnie. That's my guy.
Cool cat.
Good show. I think that brings us to the end of the show today. We didn't have time to discuss Mississippi State. That's okay.
All right, Jeff Levy.
We'll try to maybe get to it next week. Might have a slight change in schedule next week with some travels that I'm having. So just
night show.
Now we might do a night show, like a late night show. So let's plan on doing that next week. Let's get one final ad read to our friends over at Alumni Hall. It is time. Football season's just around the corner. Get your new coaches polos, your golfing polos, anything that you'd need for tailgate accessories, grilling supplies, a tent, cornhole, whatever it might be. Alumni Hall is going to be the best source, both online and in Gainesville on Archer Road, to get anything related to the Florida Gators. So go check them out, alumnihall.com, or visit them on Archer Road, right by that Chick-fil-A with 3 drive-thrus. Again, Alumni Hall and alumnihall.com. Nick, I think you have Song of the Week. I think it's only appropriate if you play a song that you can two-step to. While you figure out what your Song of the Week, I'm sure it's going to be some sea shanty about a pirate and a tangerine or something, but make sure that if you're still watching the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends,
Boy said no Jack talk.
Yeah,
man.
we didn't talk about Jack. Here, let me get through this real quick. So, support our sponsors: Game Time Sidekicks, Alumni Hall, and Home Field Apparel. You can use promo code Stadium and Gale at Home Field Apparel. Use promo code Stadium and 15 at Game Time Sidekicks. Nick, while you're figuring out your sea shanty for the week, Jack Caglione goes number 6 overall to the Kansas City Royals. Good landing spot for him. They said that they're going to let him both pitch and hit and play the field.
Yeah, I don't know that, and I've said this before, I don't know that Jack will be a two-way player in the major leagues. But looking at the Royals, I went through and looked at their top prospects. There's a pretty clear path for Jack to make it up relatively quickly. And we're seeing guys now like Paul Skeens, Wyatt Langford, who are really just spending their developmental minor league years at elite programs like LSU, Texas A&M, Florida. Texas A&M had a guy, Braden Montgomery, drafted yesterday, who I think won't be in the minors very long. I think there's a really fast track and clear path for Jack to get up to the big club playing first. And I think his glove really is underrated. So, yeah, I think it's really cool. Listen, he has a dream to play both sides, pitch and hit. And it's cool that the Royals will let him pursue that as long as it works. But I see a clear path for him to get to the majors quickly. Playing first.
Very nice. Shout out to Cags, man. He slid a little bit.
I mean, a little bit. Some of it's signability. So, like, the MLB draft is interesting because it's not the best player taken. There's high school players involved. You have a certain sum of money each team gets to sign their first 10 picks, and typically high school players will sign for less. So you might get a high school player drafted before somebody. You might get a guy in college who will sign for less money than somebody else who gets drafted. It's all about making the money work. And then obviously you have organizations like Dan's Tampa Bay Rays, my Miami Marlins, and the Oakland Athletics who just refuse to spend money. They just won't do it, which can affect how the draft plays out. So a lot of things at play there in the draft.
No doubt.
The Gators did have one of their signees take 23rd overall. Not expected to come to campus.
No, Kellen Lindsley. I think the slot for that pick is $3.6 million. There is no NIL.
Tell Gary Condren to up the bag. You know what I mean?
There's no NIL for that. You're a first round draft pick. Thank you for signing.
No. You think we give him a White Buffalo deal? Up that?
Nope. He's going to start his professional career very soon.
Good for him. Well, congratulations to those two guys. And then I guess the draft continues today. And I think that you'll see a few more Gators taken over the next few rounds of the draft. Nick, do you have a sea shanty or song for us this week?
Before we get out of here, go check out the Channing Crowder interview on Flow Factory. Awesome interview. We did part 1. It was like 3 hours, so we split it up in 2. But awesome conversations. You guys go check that out if you haven't. What song you got, Nick?
Yeah, he's on the DJ Lagwood should start against Miami train.
Man, he got things. I disagree with him in that clip, but all people hear is Channing just saying something. And he's Channing being Channing, bro.
Nick, ready for song?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my favorite song, but it is the most Eminem, the most Slim Shady Marshall Mathers LP sounding song that I think is on the album. Good luck. Good luck. This sounds like Eminem show, Marshall Mathers LP, Slim Shady. We're talking about old school Eminem. Even made references to like Gen Z, like Good Luck, Canceling Me. This is not an album that Gen Z will embrace. But like Good Luck, Canceling Eminem.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go Habits from Eminem off of his new The Death of Slim Shady album. Shout out to M.
Shout out to M.
One of my top 5, Silk. One of my top 5.
One of your top 5. Don't have M in my top 5, man. I got Mac Miller on
Totally
the
different
white rapper echelon. Yeah, I'm a totally different vibe listener too. Listening experience. True. That's like Mac Miller is more in my lane of chill, introspective, and Eminem's a little controversy and angry sometimes.
Angry, yeah.
Angry. Very angry.
Yeah, very angry. All right, boys. Same quarter, different time next week.
Let's do it. Not the same time. Not the same time. Clearly,
same quarter, different time.
Yeah, is that not what I said? That's what I said. I thought I said same quarter.
My bad. I heard it wrong.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.